Howdy, howdy, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. Welcome back to Cause Before Symptom. I am your guest host, Urban. Let's see, today is the 25th of January. There is a massive snowstorm here in Ohio. Just got started. If anybody's already gotten it, let me know how it's going. Pastor Carner will be back on the 30th. He is currently on vacation. He got the hell out of Dodge before things got bad. Uh, so, alright, let me catch my breath. I just went to grab a drink. How's it going, Boots? Nice to see you. Yeah, Pastor Carner will be back on the 30th. I will cover until then, and that's hoping that I keep power and everything. It's just the snowstorm's just getting started. How's it going, Scorpion? Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Tonight we're going to do a presentation that I've actually had shelved for a while. I went ahead and finished it up just before we got started. We're going to do that because it's actually fitting for what we're seeing going on in the world right now, unfortunately. And I'm even seeing people start to, I didn't put the clip in there, maybe I will if I have a second, but they're like, oh, we've been activated. You've been what? You've been activated. That's some weird language to be using. So that's what we're going to look into tonight. And actually, this is a pretty old concept. Let me pull up the article here so I can show you. All right, let me bring my screen up. Here we are. Yeah, nice to see everybody. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Let me get everything put back in its place. There we go. Yeah, this is not the article that I'm going to be showing everybody, but it is got the quote. This was a quote by Bill Cooper. Oh yeah, man, it is freezing here right now. It is like it's already below zero. Here, I'll check. Just says extremely cold. Let's see what it says. Feels like 5 degrees out right now. 14 degrees. Yeah, it's freezing out. But this quote here is from Bill Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, which was published in 1991. And if you actually go and you listen to Bill Cooper's stuff like right now, it's really eerie because it's like he's talking to you through time, because he'll be talking about something that's going on like right now. And so it sounds like he's just talking to you, but he's been dead since 2001. Nevertheless, in his book, here, I'll zoom in a little bit on this for you so that you can see it. Yeah, so in his book, he wrote, the government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms. What's of interest here is this right here. Using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated, and that's an important word, inculcated, the desire in these people to target schools and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. Hey, Howard Gertison, how's it going? Nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Yeah, and this book was published in 1991, and so you see what I mean. It's almost like he's kind of speaking through time. But what we're going to talk about is this process known as Orion. And we've talked about it a long time ago when I first started guest hosting. We listened to the Master's Man podcast, and he calls it Armageddon programming. So this word inculcated is very important. It has a certain connotation. To inculcate, to teach and impress by frequent repetitions or admonitions. So to teach, to inculcate is to train. As we talked about yesterday, Skinner boxes, conditioning. To inculcate is to teach or to condition. To an admonition, a gentle or friendly reproof, just any type of punishment. So that's what we're going to talk about, because this is what is going on right now. This is what's going on. This is why people are being activated, and this is why if you actually go and talk to these people, they don't actually usually know why. Like, why is it like this issue? Why is it not the smart dust being sprayed? Why is it not the satanic ritual abuse? Why is it that issue? And they couldn't tell you for the most part. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through it. And I've had this presentation ready to go for a while, actually. And I just haven't presented it yet. But I guess now is the time to do it. The Digital Labyrinth, Deconstructing the Radicalization Pipeline. So what's interesting is usually this model is very male-dominated. But recently, seemingly that has shown to turn around, because especially with what's going on in this case in Minnesota, the females, the women have been at the focal point here, and it's really causing a huge issue clash between men and women right now, because what it's doing is it's making men go and say, oh, this is all the issues with women that are wrong with society, and then that just pisses women off more, and then the cycle just goes forever, and that's part of the process. But this happens to men and women, but it does generally happen to many more men. They call them incel or femcel, which means involuntary celibate. Basically, men or women who are not accepted by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Imagine a young man isolated and bullied, spending hours online. He's looking for connection, but finds an echo chamber that twists his loneliness into rage. What is an incel or a femcel? Involuntary celibate man/woman unable to form or hold long-term relationships, causing genuine distress, because, you know, part of the cycle of life is to find somebody that you love and settle down with them. And when that is disrupted or not able to happen, or when men and women are having genuinely a complete breakdown in society of, you know, like the union, the natural union between men and women is falling apart. And that is, you know, for both sides equally. Like, it's not saying it's one side or the other, but both sides have genuine grievances, but they're not able to communicate anymore. It's gotten now to the point where communication is not on the table anymore. So the slang they use is called the black pill, a deterministic worldview claiming success is dictated by lookism, and it leads to extreme hopelessness. There's more to it, but genuinely, it's this void, the emptiness, basically nothing left to live for. And so, person that has nothing left to live for is a very dangerous person. The ancient concept of happiness. True happiness was anciently understood to be what happens when one's life unfolds naturally according to their design in God's creation. Satan's primary trick is to create false mythologies and lies that cause people to chase illusions, ensuring that they can never be happy, and will then blame God for their misery. That is the trick. That's the playbook, and it's been the playbook forever. Is for you to ruin your own life or let somebody else do it, and then for you to blame it all on God. Say, God made me this way, and now I hate God. That's the trick. Spectrum of harm, different ways that this can manifest, and it does manifest in so many different ways, truly. Spectrum of harm, online harm. The idea where basically if enough people perceive something that they don't like, because this is fueled by emotion, so we will act first and then we will think about it later. And so, for instance, people will think that somebody has done something, they will misperceive it, and then they will go harass, dox, threats. And to a degree, this is what is insidious to this extent, that the reason that like ICE and law enforcement are covering their faces is because of that, and that is genuine. But at the same time, what that does is that causes a lot of other secondary problems. And at this point, it's really hard for myself and many other people to answer the question, is that being done all the way just for genuine security, or is that being done and beefed up to cause those unintended or maybe intended side effects? Offline violence, stalking, intimate partner violence, mass casualty events. Some 50 deaths can be attributed. The radicalization of incels or femcels is not spontaneous. It is a systematic process of psychological warfare. Operation Orion, leveraging vulnerabilities to transform despair into extremist violence. The host, vulnerabilities, emotional landscape, high rates of depression, anxiety, and profound loneliness. Interpersonal victimhood, integrating victimhood into the core identity. Connection to neurodiversity, about 33% of ASD traits. Antisocial disorder. Social catalyst, history of chronic bullying, persistent ostracization and rejection. NEAT phenomenon, which is not an education, employment, or training, an act of rebellion against society. The echo chamber offers deceptive belonging, deepens isolation, reinforces hate policies and self-improvement, creates a vicious circle, discouraging outside engagement. That's the big part there. Anybody who disagrees with the group is to be shamed, and with the end goal of that shame becoming violent. And that's what we're seeing right now. The shame has gone on for like the last 10, 15 years. Now it's getting into a more advanced phase. So this is the general model here. I've got a visual too. There are 8 steps to neuro-linguistic programming or neuro-linguistic brainwashing. First step, to focus attention. Algorithms hook users with provocative memes or information. The immediate experience, you need to basically induce a moment of chaos, or knock somebody off balance, let's say. And it's in that, when that person like has the adrenaline, when they're shook up, a new normal is inserted in the form of a mythology. So second step is to cause that shock. Let's see. Exposure to shocking content, gore, to normalize rage is one method. Acceptance, identifying with incel heroes, accepting victimhood as truth. Another way that this model is used, just so that I can be clear on this model is also used in all campaign. If you're going to campaign pretty much for any public office, it doesn't matter if you're on the blue side or the red side, any campaign is looking to do these steps. And if you go back into the last election cycles, the last couple election cycles, you will find the same model repeated over and over. This is the model for hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming. And I'm going to take you through other examples afterwards. Introducing the goal portraying society as phony. That was what it was called in the book The Catcher in the Rye. Holden Caulfield, the main character, was the incel Mark I. He was the original character incel. And so he said that all of society was phony, or as we would call them today, NPCs. We would call them bots. Basically, they don't think they're not smart, they're phony, and that's the justification for the violence. Reinforcing the goal. Step 5, repetition is key here. Repetition of themes, memes can escalate the tension. You're seeing it all the time. It's always put in front of you. 6, dissociation, doom scrolling, the endless, that, as we learned yesterday, that floating in the constant high, the constant ocean of dopamine, that they are going to then swap us out into the CBDCs. So, it's very possible in the future that there will be some type of business model, probably where this will be a model that can be sold, and probably a good chance that it already is being sold as like a service. This is a service. If you want to cause some chaos, there's probably some CIA or Mossad based company that can get it done. Yes, absolutely. Yes, this is the dissociation is very important. It's because that is when this involuntary rage occurs. Anticipation. 7 is now, once you have got your dog conditioned, when you ring the bell, it's going to anticipate the food when you ring the bell. Pavlov's dog. Reinforcement is the last step. It's that this cycle continues. You take all of the everything that's worked from the last go, and you feed it back in, and you keep the cycle going, and so it perpetuates itself. Now, this same process here, we call in America, we call them incels, but there's another word by which this goes in the Middle East. They call this same process that we're talking about here, they call it in the Middle East, it's called jihad. The same process here is called jihad in the Middle East. This is the same reason that they go, and same thing. Oh, how's it going? Nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. I wish I had an answer from that. For that, that's a hard question to answer. AI images. Honestly, the only chance that you have is you have to get off of the technology as much as possible. It's like, I mean, if you have a minimum that you want to stay at, that's all you. But it's like we gotta get off this stuff. We gotta get off, because it's a trap. It's a trap. It's always been a trap. And I always think back, myself included, when I always think back, it's like our parents and our grandparents, they knew in the back of their head, they knew that this wasn't good. They were right. So here's the graphic. This is a visual version of it. I know that here, let me go ahead and load the photo into the streaming software, and I will make it larger for you. There we go. Yeah, so the first step, focusing human attention. Enhancing awareness of that intention by an immediate experience. 3, leading the subject into accepting the experience, called transference or trance. It's, for instance, if you're listening, this is why the way to interface with a person's subconscious is through music and story and prose. That's why mythology is important. It's because you put yourself into the shoes of the main character. That's natural. That's called transference. And that's how they get the ideas, the bad ideas past the guard, the wall of your conscious mind, is they sneak it in through story. 4. There we go. 3 and 4. Leading the subject into accepting the experience is 3, transference. 4 is introducing the goal. That is the introduction of the goal. Is in your mind you will find yourself, and you have to train yourself to catch yourself doing this. They just mean this, or they only mean that, you know, oh, you see something that looks off. What's going on here? Like, what the hell's going on with this? And then you will find yourself saying, oh, well, probably they were just, or he probably, that is the introduction and swallowing the hook. Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. Sneaking it in through story. Okay, step 5, important. Reinforcing the goal via repetition and circular reasoning. Circular reasoning. The harder you work, the higher your taxes. The higher your taxes, the harder you work. Let me think. Let me make sure I can get this right. You believe the spell works because you believe the mythology. But you believe the mythology because the spell works. That's circular reasoning. 6 is the encouraging dissociation and involuntary responses. The worst hypnotist is nothing more than a liar who is attempting to convince you of a mythology that is intended to become your new normal. And finally, step 7, building anticipation and expectation. The greater the subject's attention, the more likely the hypnotist will gain the expectation assigned to the anticipation. And finally, accepting any and all success and using it as reinforcement on the next time. And the last step is always the same. All right. Next, we've got a couple video clips. Oh, shoot. I did not mean to do that. Let's see. First, on spells.
A spell is in reality a trigger to an action. All faith and fear are really calls to action. It is a command designed to create a specific result at a specific time. The most effective spells are based on pre-indoctrinated mythology that facilitates circular reasoning. Circular reasoning spirals in on itself with no escape except for the one predetermined by the witch or the wizard.
I am Oz!
Many an escaping Dorothy, desperate for the normalcy of Kansas, runs to the wrong pastor, rabbi, or white witch, and while they might believe they have gained a respite, they soon find themselves back.
Follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road.
The important thing to understand is that the spell is believed to work because the mythology is believed to be true, and the mythology is believed to be true because the spell worked.
Exactly. That was the first clip. Now, the next couple clips are on the various steps.
Here is how JD's bestseller.
In this, he's discussing the book The Catcher in the Rye, and so that's what the examples are. And that's a full video. It's like 2.5 hours, and it's it traces that entire process through the book. It's a very deep dive, and it's worth watching.
Opens.
If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where was I born, and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. In the first place, that stuff bores me, and in the second place, my parents would have about 2 hemorrhages apiece if I told anything pretty personal about them. They're quite touchy about anything like that, especially my father. They're nice and all, I'm not saying that, but they're also touchy as hell. Besides, I'm not going to tell you my whole goddamn autobiography or anything. I'll just tell you about this madman stuff that happened to me around last Christmas, just before I got pretty run down and had to come out here and take it easy.
Here, the questions being raised are pummeled at you so rapidly that you don't have time to settle on one before you are hit with the next. For a reader reading that, and we know you are listening to it, didn't you find your subconscious mind questioning, who is this guy? What's his name? Where was he born? Why doesn't he want me to know this? What is his heritage? What's the setup? Why does all that bore him? Why are his parents so touchy? What are they trying to hide? What is he trying to hide? Where is he now? Why is he mad?
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
But all we are given is that. I'll just tell you about this madman stuff that happened to me.
Yeah, so the idea being to raise these subconscious questions that the mind will naturally want answered, because we're all, you're curious. Like if you see a wreck on the side of the road, car accident, it's like you can't help but peek. It's human nature. It's what is going on there. Baiting and hooking.
Step 2. Enhance awareness of the attention by immediate experience. In less pedestrian terms, this is the hook we are talking about. The bait gets the fish to bite without realizing that hidden in the bait is a hook. Once you are hooked, you are caught, and you are in for the ride.
What he means by hooked, once you're hooked, that means once you believe the mythology. Very important to remember that. Once you're hooked, once you believe the story, once you believe the false mythology, remember happiness, you can't, if you are going to be, you're going to believe a story that wasn't necessarily true. And that will be the basis for all of the logic going forward. And so you screwed yourself, because if you accept that the story or the mythology isn't true, then your whole worldview crumbles. Fishy, fishy, fishy!
The realization that you have been hooked is definitely an enhanced awareness, and it is by immediate experience. Perhaps you've seen hypno-entertainers speaking to a subject on the street or on the internet, and then suddenly grabbing their arms in a jerk or knocking their heads. This is the immediate experience. It has to be this immediate, as it must build on the attention, shock or hook it, and then overwhelm it. It's in this moment of chaos that the mind reaches out for rational meaning in an attempt to stay in equilibrium.
Where I lived at Pensy. I lived in the Ossenberger Memorial Wing of the new dorms. It was only for juniors and seniors. I was a junior. My roommate was a senior. It was named after this guy Ossenberger that went to Pensy.
Did you hear it? It's chiasmic. Pensy, Ossenberger, junior senior, Ossenberger, Pensy. It's needless repetition, but it's also a circle and becomes a cage or a net as the logic turns in on itself. You think Pensy, Ossenberger, junior senior, Ossenberger, Pensy, Ossenberger, junior senior, Ossenberger, Pensy, Ossenberger, junior senior, Ossenberger, Pensy, and so on. Hold on. Stay hooked.
Mr. Ossenberger made a pot of dough in the undertaking business after he got out of Pensy. What he did, he started these undertaking parlors all over the country that you could get members of your family buried for about $5 a piece. You should see old Ossenberger.
In other words, see him. Now.
He probably just shoves them in a sack and dumps them in a river.
Here is the reinforcement of the goal. Liar. Ossenberger. Pretends to be a great man who gives to the Shriner Hospital.
You say that you are Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay,
What
you're
about those
confirming it.
hospitals?
But he is really successful because he is a liar.
The mythology, that's the mythology.
Encouraging disassociation and involuntary responses to the goal.
I am a good boy.
Once the victim has taken the bait, become hooked, taught the goals of their capture, and had them repeated and circularly reinforced, the plan is for the trigger that has been set to function as a command in a disassociated way and involuntarily.
I believe I know what the trigger is that's being used in the present situation. If anybody wants to guess, please take your guess, and I'll tell you what the answer is in a minute, at least what I think it is.
We have said numerous times that this is easier to do to children who have been ritually traumatized, but the effect can also work on the public if they are not mindful.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It's time to get another booster. Act, don't think. Obey, don't question. Do as you are told to do. Step 4. Introducing the goal. The next step is called introducing the goal because it is understood that people have to marinate in an idea before they can accept it. In our recent international disease scare, this was set up by the constant tick of the rising death clock. We have discussed ticking clocks many times together, and all of the previous discussions about them apply here.
I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
All of us were pushed to get the
Ouch!
I should be prosecuted.
before supplies ran out, and we were the ones guilted to believe that we had killed our family and friends if we didn't conform. Do you see how this works?
This is urgent. It's going to have to go to 7 billion people.
Caught in the rye with the book, and having gained sympathy to the point that we have merged with the hypnotist,
I want you to stare into the spiral. You want to give me your mind.
we are ready to hear the goal in preparation to accept it. Here is the goal.
I'm the most terrific liar you ever saw in your life. It's awful. If I'm on my way to the store to buy a magazine even, and somebody asks me where I'm going, I'm liable to say I'm going to the opera.
Lies and deception is the goal. This makes sense and should stand as the warning to the reader. You are reading a book about a liar and a manipulator. This is in fact what the worst hypnotist is. A liar attempting to convince you of a mythology that is intended to become your new reality.
All right, on to next 2 videos.
What Salinger did, and we will argue brilliantly, was take his emerging juvenile male angst, frustration, anger, competition, and testosterone, and connect it internally to murder. In this, Holden's gun To accompany his deer or duck hunting hat, he always carries with him in his pants his constant frustration with male-on-male aggression. Have you ever seen young guys wrestling and getting overly excited like two bucks, sizing each other up on a mat? Or his inadequacies with women of all ages throughout the book. Failure after failure, from elderly Mrs. Spencer to his 10-year-old sister, is always connected in the programming with death. Arousal and sexual energy need a release. If you are too immature or stupid yet to see it, never fear. You have to look no further than the text itself for your proof. Due to our immaturity, we do not teach adolescents today that human beings, and really all of God's creation, enter an inner altered state as arousal arises. Women speak of this as going into heat, and one can hear female cats going through this some nights outside your window. Human women know that such times can be emotionally very difficult to manage. Human males find their experience to be a mixture of hyperfocus and some amount of robotization that can be very difficult to shut down once it is turned on.
I'm a mechanical boy, like a mechanical toy. That's because I'm a mechanical boy.
Male arousal is designed to climax with a various and as sundry parts are timed to work in an exact order. In fact, males reach a point where they lose control, and once that moment is reached, the outcome is inevitable. There is even a split second where they tense and freeze, guaranteeing the bullet will hit its mark. This is called the little death in the occult, and when such an act is displayed on an altar before a coven, the moment a man freezes, his little death is celebrated by the naked gawking wizards and witches. These altered internal states and their physical outward manifestations make up what they lustfully refer to as sex magic. Sex is like a drug. Drugs are sorcery in the occult. No adult needs this explained to them, but their teenage children do. What The Catcher in the Rye teaches boys particularly, and broken occult males specifically, is
this is important. This is the most important part. And this is what's going on still to this day.
Is that their inner sodomy rage, male aggression, altered state arousal.
We're going to talk about that next, but basically you've been fucked by the world enough, and now you're not going to have it anymore. That's what's meant there.
And building robotization can climax not in testicular ejaculation from their built-in flesh rifle, but with a metal bullet from an actual gun. The very same physical robotization that takes over males rhythmically, and in which they eventually reach a point of no return, can explode in murder, making the freeze before the little death a freezing of the mind as the fist pulls the metal trigger. This is the purpose of the trauma trancing and the horror hypnosis. It is no coincidence that robo-assassins, Timothy McVeigh, Sirhan Sirhan, Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Chapman, John Hinckley, and of course John Wilkes Booth. No, I was just waiting to see if you were awake. They all considered The Catcher in the Rye, except for John Wilkes Booth. That was a joke, but he was a member of the Illuminati. All of these considered The Catcher in the Rye as being the book that intimately applied to them. Well, we will never know exactly what Jerome David Salinger felt about this. It is impossible to...
It's also worth noting that the guy who wrote the book, J.D. Salinger, did work in psychological operations in World War II, I believe.
To deny from history that prominent assassins have considered it profoundly influential on them. It is also impossible to deny the unrelenting pattern of clever hypno-triggers double entendres, and subconscious repetitive logic that sexual pressure in hormonal males is to be released through ejaculatory gunfire. The rest is open for debate.
And that is what we're seeing.
All of these were tests for...
I'm going to just play this second clip here is it. This is why we are where we're at right now.
If you have been paying attention, you already know the answer.
Never waste a good crisis.
The Constitution must be undermined before you and I can be returned to slavery. Through Armageddon. All of these were tests for a coming day when the occult intends to trigger their program to bring about Armageddon on their terms.
Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time."
Rule Britannia, Britannia rule always. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves.
And that is exactly why nobody can tell you why the hell they're fighting the wrong damn enemy. It's because it's just programming. It is Project Orion that Bill Cooper talked about in 1991, and it is the reason for every single, very likely 90% of all of the mass casualties. That's how it's been done. The Sodomy rage. The unifying mechanism channeling trauma into a singular explosive anger stems from a sense of profound violation, that the being victimized. No human likes to be victimized. Being fucked by the world. Unifies. It unifies these different forms of trauma, basically. Economic despair, housing, jobs, social humiliation, rejection, personal trauma, abuse. The channeled rage is then directed at the phonies or the perceived oppressors. This is information that comes from a person named Marion Knox. A deliverance worker, Marion Knox, a deliverance worker, asserts that sodomy, particularly during early childhood, is the foundational key to Illuminati programming. The development of multiple personalities, dissociative identity disorder, and the opening of the third eye for occult mystics. He posits that sodomy creates a spiritual and neurological vulnerability, allowing for the insertion of what they call the strong man, or legion spirits, which are essentially demonic entities. This is how they possess individuals. This is how demonic possession can be done, how it can be inflicted. So for these elites, they are actually seeking to do this because they are demons. The elites are, for all intents and purposes, they are demons. And so they are seeking to possess these individuals who they do this to. So why do all the Catholic priests do it? Why did Aleister Crowley teach that the way to power in the world was this? Oh, it was just symbolism. No, it wasn't just symbolism. It was not just symbolism. Because if you go and you look at a picture of Crowley a couple years before he died, it is the craziest eyes I've ever seen. Knox links sodomy to various secretive and powerful groups, including Freemasonry, Jesuits, and even certain elements of the Catholic hierarchy, viewing it as Satan's new birth and the ultimate act of rebellion against God. The provided supplementary material offers a counterpoint by detailing the occult understanding of chakras, particularly the first chakra, and the concept of sex magic as a means of manipulating energy and consciousness, potentially offering an alternative or complementary framework to Knox's claims. In terms of that, the best thing I could recommend is to I've heard that it is in studying and understanding the roots of the trauma. And so you have to understand the roots, and you have to have people who have experience in some manner. I don't necessarily say what kind of experience, but what I do mean is you should go to somebody who would be considered an elder to you. And maybe somebody who is like a close friend of yours or your family, who is seen as the most mature person to deal with it. Or it could be, somebody in the church. If you're Christian, it could be somebody like that. You need a rock, if you will. Let's see. Yeah. This is known biblically. Sodomy is known biblically as paying the dog's price. It is the first sacrament of Satanism. The occult believes that is the method by which demons are inserted. So Satan, for anybody, is whatever they give permission to fuck them in the ass, either literally or metaphorically. So, for instance, if I'm an alcoholic and I make the choice to drink every day, and I continue to allow it to put me into the position where then I go out and I drink and drive, and then I end up in jail. It's that I have basically given it consent, whether I would like to admit it to myself or not. It's that I've allowed it to do that to me. It's not God's fault. The amplifier propaganda factors in here. Mainstream media, which uses the same techniques, manufactures consent by filtering information. They frame these events as terrorism applied to foreign or Muslim perpetrators, mental health crisis when applied to white perpetrators. Selective framing obscures complex factors. And then you have the destruction by dialectic, where basically it's either solution A will solve this or solution B will solve this. But in reality, something like this is too much of a important subject to just be black or white. There's many more details that go into it, but you see, once the dialectic forms, once it's either we're going to fix it by doing this or we're going to fix it by doing that, once it is that, then you're never going to fix it because you're locked into that black and white thinking. Digital battlefield, algorithmic radicalization. That's why I think we've all watched the Shadowgate documentary together, and you know, they really can do this easily. That's why I believe it's turned into a business model. Consensus, trance, echo chambers present black pill as undisputed fact. Basically, the idea that they could be channeled into, see, it fits together nicely. A mesh network. We're back to mesh networking. Mesh networking being the fact that the network can reorganize itself at will. And so, for instance, if they want something to go down in, I don't know, let's say Minnesota, well, then they can make sure that they are feeding the people on the blue side will get the blue story, because they'll get narrative A. But then people on the red side will get narrative B. And so you've got the dialectic, you've got this or that, and then you let it play out. Violence is normalized as a logical response to this filtered reality. The lone wolf myth. Digital radicalization creates a violent operator similar to old school programmed models. Lone wolf is a perfect patsy for an ideology. These are not, there's absolutely less than a 10% chance that any of these are done completely by one person. It's like, what, are you going to tell me that the stuff that happened in the Butler, Pennsylvania Trump thing, that just one person was able to do that? Nah, hell no. Provides a cover-up, distracting from the radicalization pipeline. That's what happens, is that, oh, it's just one person, so don't look at anything else. Digital trauma algorithms induce dissociation through relentless psychological attack and engineered hopelessness. The old toolkit, from MK Ultra to Meta. The old toolkit, direct psychic torture. The new toolkit, algorithmic despair and doom scrolling, with enhanced psychic torture. Because now they have them on the congressional budget, cognitive electromagnetic warfare, on the 2026 NDAA, and I'll go ahead and show you that because it's worth showing you. Let's see.
There's no entry or exit wound. How they're designed is to make the target feel like they're crazy, like they're imagining things, especially on the low duration, the low intensity, long duration hits.
Are either of you aware of any individuals who have AHI symptoms have passed away from their ailments?
I do. I do.
Have any of you three panelists ever seen one of these weapons?
I have seen a 1991 version of the weapon, and it looks like a satellite dish with a unit this size attached to it. Which, of course, over the years, miniaturization has been possible. Obviously, there's a limitation to how miniaturized it can be because of the antenna size, which
There's no real limit to how small it can be. These things are now nano-sized, so they can make them probably smaller than that. But what they've admitted to there is arguably a crime against humanity, because what they're saying is we're going to demonize people, get inside their mind, and basically torment them in a manner which is no different than demonic possession. So it's like, do you want Satan's demons controlling you, or do you want the government's demons to control you? And do we know if they're if is there anything different between the two of them? I don't think so, because if you look, there are dukes and princes and governors in the demonic realm too. So hypnosis and drugs the old way. Still use those, but now they have wireless drug delivery. propaganda loops and neuro-linguistic programming, memes, and mimetics do play in here. Again, this presentation I had from a couple months back, but I finished it up tonight because I wanted to present it. So some of this stuff I haven't had a chance to put all of the information into, and when I release like the video and stuff tomorrow, I'm going to finish everything up and release this to everybody to go through with the links and stuff. Creating alters, forging a radicalized incel, femcel identity, but what is actually breeding on the internet, because you can be anybody you want on the internet. You know, people can create accounts and they can have fake accounts and people do wild stuff on the internet. And so to a degree, that is a type of alter. Handler activated triggers, mimetic and social media triggers. The trigger, I think, that people have been trained to follow in Minnesota is the police brutality and police killings. I think that's the trigger. Those things are bad, but that is what they have been trained to respond to. When that happens, pallets of bricks show up in the middle of the streets overnight by accident. And FBI weapons cache, like in Minnesota, they're just left out. FBI cars just left out in the middle of the street. Nobody in it. It's just left there in the middle of ongoing riots, and they just leave a bunch of FBI cars out in the street. Cycle. At the end of it all, you come to this realization once you're down into this mindset, this mythology is do what thou wilt. That's what it's about. Do what thou wilt. That's what they say, is that they're going to do whatever they want, and that's why they're going to go on to social media and they're going to tell people that they should go out and they should start pulling out weapons and start causing chaos. It's because they tell themselves that I'm going to do whatever I want to do and nobody can stop me. Do what thou wilt. Selfishness reframed as empowerment. Externalize the blame. You fail, it's not your fault. Blame it on God, is what they say. Psychological pressure cooker. What happens is that this whole thing is toxic. It destroys your mind, completely destroys you. This right here is the recipe to completely destroy people. And that's what has gone on ever since apparently 1991, because that's when Bill Cooper wrote about it. So apparently he was well aware of this process all the way back then. And I think the evidence is pretty good that he was right. Yeah, so when you're trapped in these logic loops, all it does is it's corrosive. A house divided against itself can't stand. And so it's the contention. It's that you have two opposing, cognitive dissonance, but it just spirals out of control. Conditioned to reject alternatives. That's the trap. That's the damnation part. Because if literally the only thing you have to do to escape is to ask for forgiveness, ask for help. Don't isolate yourself. Do not wall yourself off and say, hey, I'm not going to budge. I have the truth, and so I don't need to learn any more truth. Why would I ask for forgiveness if I've ever done anything wrong? That is what that's what Trump said. Trump has actually said that. He said, why would I ask for forgiveness if I've never done anything wrong? Well, what if the only requirement, the only thing you have to do to win the game is ask for forgiveness? But if you don't think you've done anything wrong, why would you do that? See, it's not that you can't be forgiven. It's that you've ruled out the only thing that you have to do. You have trapped yourself with reasoning. That is damnation in the sense of a river dam. If your life is supposed to be like a river that increases with strength and goodness and glory over time, you know, Jesus is water, connected with water as the symbol. And if you block a person's river, you've damned it. Stop the progression. To damn. You've reasoned yourself out of an escape. You've fallen for the lie. Conditioned to reject alternatives, and asking for help is perceived as weakness. The sodomy rage, the victimization builds because, like I said, it's corrosive. Basically, you're trapped in the logic, and so now anything you do is just going to make it worse. And that's how it reaches quite literally a boiling point. Reinforcing loop. 1. Action. Act on the antisocial beliefs. 2. Failure, rejection, and conflict. 3. Validation. Retreat to the safe space, the echo chamber. 4. Escalation. Rage intensifies. 5. Repeat. Remember, repeat. Goes and goes and goes. And it is literally like if you take a pressure cooker and you just don't release the pressure and it'll blow up. Same thing happens here. And that is why everybody has been progressively boiled. Like everybody's been pushed to the edge of their seat. And that's why you have these theatrics. This is the purpose of the crazy rage theatrics and the way that they misconstrue news. This is why. Because it is raising the pressure. The culmination of the programming is a violent explosion. When the psychological pressure becomes unbearable, it seeks the only release provided by the programming. The rage detonates in a homicidal, dissociated episode. The final tragic activation, and literally they are using that term, I've been activated. Tragic activation of a mind systematically broken and repurposed for violence. Summary. The radicalization pipeline is a multi-stage process that we went over of psychological manipulation, which Bill Cooper named or presented to the public in 1991 in his book, Behold a Pale Horse. He called it Project Orion. Targets specific vulnerabilities. The AI mesh networking can do all of this now. Can organize and target and set up cells on its own. If they want this to go down in a specific city, they just put it in and the algorithm can take care of it. Uses systematic programming model amplified by tech. The stuff we've talked about tonight is pretty much outdated already. All of this stuff, it can be done 100 times easier now with AI, and that's why you're seeing like all this stuff exploding now. Serves to create violent actors via self-reinforcing rage. Call for a new approach. Address the root causes. What you'll notice is that this process here, as I've presented it to you, is never going to be talked about. People are not going to talk about it on the news. They're not going to talk about it at all. Because either one, they don't want to know, they're not open to the idea. 2, it's either too hard to talk about. These are hard topics, sure, but we're in pretty trying times. And so, you know, gotta, the truth sets you free. The truth makes you free. Pastor Carner told me that. He said the truth doesn't set you free, it makes you free. Because if it makes you free, then you can't be caught again. And so how do you know what's true? It's because it's what sets you free. It's what makes you permanently free. So you know the truth. You'll know what it is because it'll be the thing that makes you free inside. And so all of this is it has to come out. People have to understand this. For the people who want the answers, it's here, and that's what we have to do. We have to educate people to what is going on, because you will never solve a problem at all if you don't listen. It's like the stuff supposedly going on right now, it's bad on both ends, and I think that's by design. But the issue, and just plainly, this is the wrong enemy is being fought here. Nobody's talking about the spraying of smart fog. Nobody is talking about this right here. Why this? Here, this is probably, buddy, this is the best answer I can give you right now. It is probably this. They are fumigating everybody. Even if you are not vaccinated, if you're not vaccinated, maybe a little bit better, but if it doesn't matter. Next time you go outside at night and it's foggy, hold up a light to it like this. That's smart dust. MEMS and MIMOs and NEMS, which stands for micro electromechanical systems, micro electromechanical systems, or nano electromechanical systems. These are aerosols. A couple of days ago, the World Economic Forum, they have confirmed that they are spraying to save the planet or some BS. We're going to just wipe everybody out, and that's going to save the planet, is their idea now. So yeah, my guess is that could have to do with this. They're doing this everywhere. It's not just happening in one country. My buddy Juxtaposition has airplanes that fly over him all day long. Multiple airplanes fly over all day long, and they're flying over everybody. All you gotta do is go outside and just keep watching. You'll start to see them. And hold up a flashlight in the fog. It helps if it's at night. And promote digital literacy. People need to read a book. People need to stop. Please, if you do one thing, do not find truth in people telling you what, like right now, you don't believe anything I just presented to you. I will put this presentation out tomorrow, and I'll put all the links that you'll need, all the videos, all the books, and I already have that stuff. I just got to put the links in there, and you guys can please read it for yourself. Watch all of the stuff that I've put on there, and don't, as Bill Cooper used to say, don't believe anything until you can prove it with your own research. And that's why I started collecting and saving books and stuff, is because I noticed information from before the internet, books that were written and printed before the internet, digital was a thing. Those are going missing. So I started saving them. That's why. And that's the end of that. So let's go back over here. All right. I think that was the presentation, everything I wanted to convey to you tonight. I hope you guys see things in a new light, or at least you can kind of, next time you hear or see things, hopefully you understand that this is happening. I did a few streams a while ago. Nice to see you. I mean, you showed up a little late, but you can rewind the live stream. I encourage you to do it. It was a pretty good one. But if you're just tuning in, appreciate you just tuning in. What I was going to say, however, is do not fall for the trap where people believe, okay, now you know about this, now you're immune to it. This will not happen to you. That is a trap. Do not fall for that. You have to understand, now you know about this stuff, and so now what you have to do is you have to evaluate what you see, and you have to try to train yourself to spot. You will start to think back to one, or it probably won't be the entire everything I said, but you'll probably have taken a few different things from this video and you will think back to them. And when you do, you will start piecing the puzzle together and train yourself to spot it. That you have to, it's like observation and the quantum mechanics. Once you observe something, you know, it collapses the wave or whatever down. Once you can observe, I guess here's the better metaphor. Whenever the stuff in the dark is exposed by the light, it scatters. That's what happens. And so I guess that's a pretty, that actually, I just came up with that, but that's pretty good. Yeah, whenever, you know, you shine a light on a corner and there's like a spider or just like a bug or something, you shine the light and it just runs away. That's what's going on here. And that's why you have to train yourself to be able to shine the light. That's where God, the Bible, Jesus comes in. For the discernment, understand this. Just because you read the Bible, that does not mean that you can't be God. That doesn't mean that you can't be pick up on neuro-linguistic programming. You have to ask for the discernment. You have to just say, hey, you know, does this feel right? It's my gut. You know, and they say trust your heart. Historically, before they had the anatomy understanding, the heart was the gut. So like your gut feeling, when they say trust your heart, that's what it means. So very rarely is your heart wrong. Your gut feeling is not wrong much. And if it is, it's almost worth analyzing. It's like if you have a gut feeling and it's wrong, you might want to see if something's not wrong in reality before you. It's maybe something is somebody's trying to get over on you. Whatever was created in darkness is coming to light. That's important. I'll leave off with that here. Let me put up the image here. Thank you for bringing that up, because that is actually probably something that doesn't get mentioned, or they never think about that. They talk about all these third temples and stuff that they're going to build, you know, to bring whatever they bring the Messiah or whatever, but they don't understand. Well, what some don't understand, I think maybe they do understand this. And this is why everything is being disclosed right now. This is why they are coming out and they're confirming all of the conspiracy theories. It's true. Whoever is doing this, they have to understand what you said, Argertison, that before all of this can come to a close, everything has to come out. And interesting enough, it has to be shouted from the rooftops. With, you know, if you get up on the roof and you shout something, you're broadcasting it. So before it's a constraint, basically, all of the temples, they can build 100 million third temples. All of them will be completely useless if there's only one secret left. If there's one secret left, the third temple doesn't matter. And so one would follow that train of logic through and say that maybe they have to reveal everything. Maybe they have to reveal everything because they're going to lay their hand on the table and they're going to say, we did all of this bad stuff, but will it work if we just admit to it? Yeah. I don't know, man. You can't say it's certain. I mean, so what? That doesn't bind anybody to a set future. I mean, for instance, I'll leave you with this. You can't sell what you don't own. So, you know, the whole idea of you sold your soul. It is a giant theatrical performance that they will go to great lengths to put on, because that theatrical performance is what convinces you that that is a legally binding agreement. But it's not a legally binding agreement. Because it's not yours. You don't have the authority to give it away. And that alone is why all of their AI God plans are going to fail. Because they think that they've sold their soul, but really they're afraid to die. They will spend every cent of their net worth if it means that they don't have to die. And I would bet on it. I would bet on that. That's why they are building all of this stuff. That's why they are building a tower to heaven, is because they don't want to die, because they're scared of what comes next. And I'll leave you with that. Buddy, I hope and pray that you are able to find some resolve and some relief on that. These are trying times, because either it's a demon or maybe it's just the government, because what's the difference? I like that. I'll have to remember that. Thanks, Boots. Thank you, guys. Maybe it's a demon, or maybe it's just the government, but what's the difference? Take care, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. For everybody who's getting the snow right now, pray for each other. I'll be praying for you. Take care, guys.